Ladies and gentlemen, learning Catan could be a really daunting task. Seems like there's a lot of moving pieces and it's a very complex game on the surface, but realistically, there's a lot of things you can do early on to level up your game quickly. Now, as a national champion and top ranked player, one of the first things that I did that improved my game immediately was to learn placement strategies. Now, I've done videos on placements and all sorts of different things like that, but I'm going to be reviewing a video from Tricosaurus, who's an OG content creator, and really give you some extra thoughts, some feedback to it, because he did all of this in 5 minutes. But I think together we can really give you a ton of insights to squeeze out of this video. All right, let's sit down, relax, and learn some Catan placement strategy. All right, headphones in, Treek, let it go.
Strategies for settlers of Catan. I only select the strategies that have high win rates against all levels of competition, even in tournaments. So let's get started. And we're gonna start things off with strategy number 1, full Orvi cheap. One of the most interesting setups is the full Orvi cheap strategy. This strategy only starts on ore, wheat and sheep hexes, and is able to improve settlements into cities very efficiently. The strength of full Orvi cheap is its ability to buy a lot of development cards, which makes them often take the largest army. Their 10-point plan typically looks like this: 3 cities, largest army, and 2 victory points from the development card pile. But full Orvi cheap players...
You know, a first comment I want to make, I mean, there's a lot of things going on there. I really like that he's offered this little tidbit about structures here, where essentially the best plan to win, let me just get over to the video, is 3 cities, largest army, and 2 VPs. When I think about Catan strategy, I think in this way, no matter what setup that I pick. So I do agree with this. I think having a game plan where you can get another settlement, right? Because you can upgrade your 2 first settlements in the cities. So there's 2 cities, but you need another settlement to get a 3rd city. So my usual plan for full OWS, where you only go ore, wheat, and sheep, is to get at least 2 additional settles. Usually one will be on a useful port, which ports are a great way to play Catan. But then one's going to usually be kind of off to the side where can't be disturbed. It's kind of there if you need it as a nice backup option. And of course, you need largest army. Kind of the heart and engine of an OWS game is getting development cards, getting those knights, and then along the way, hopefully you pull the victory points that you need. Yeah, 2 VPs, that's kind of like the staple. And it actually kind of reminds me, I'll put a picture on the screen over here of my USA National Semis game, where I actually had a just really nice pure OWS, and I had everything except the 3rd city. So I'll show you the screenshot. But it just goes to show you, right? These structures are very prevalent and make a ton of sense for OWS, of course.
The development card pile. But full Orvi cheap players also have some major challenges to overcome. Building roads and settlements both take wood and brick, but they don't produce any, and doing a 4-for-1 trade with the bank is really expensive. Therefore, they either need to be really good traders or have some luck with drawing a Year of Plenty, a road building, or a monopoly from the development card deck. Now let's take a look.
So interesting. Yes, obviously when you don't have any wood and brick production, then yeah, right, you're going to have to get it somehow because you need to get that 3rd settle or potentially 4th settle. But there was another piece that he did not mention there, which was you need to either trade for it or pull the Yop, Road Builder, or Mono. Another big part of this game is that you'll be accumulating knights. And the thing about the knight is you get to steal a card. So a big part of this strategy is that you want to be consistently tracking your opponent's hands so that you're stealing the cards that you need. Maybe you need a brick to drop a road. You've got to know whose hand that's in and where can you find it. I don't think that aspect of stealing for what you need is appreciated enough as an OWS player. It is so critically important, and the best dev card players know this. Like, this is an absolute big part of their winning strategy. So just keep that in mind. Your knights are big assets, not only defensively, but offensively as well. But yes, full OWS, honestly, probably one of the best ways to get kind of comfortable playing the game, because the meta is development cards, right? It's the heart and soul of Catan, and kind of going into the deep end of not having wood and brick will teach you different ways to be resourceful, and honestly, you'll start crushing a lot more people. Like, you could win tournaments all around the different arenas by understanding something like a full OWS. So cool. I love it. I think it's a great strategy. Definitely try it.
Plenty of road building or a monopoly. Look at my favorite strategy. Strategy number 2 is the road builder. This strategy is totally different from the full or with cheap setup, as it places on a ton of wood and brick hexes in order to get easy expansion spots.
I want to note one thing right now is that, yes, the road builder requires roads, and that's, doesn't take too much to figure that out, which is great. But a little side note here is that there's also a positional play to this, which is not only can you get the wood and the brick, but you can also place in a way where you control space. And honestly, it's one of the most important pieces of an effective road game. So as an example here, we have the 9-5-10 and the 6-4-2, double wood, double brick, technically, even though it's a 2 brick. But you do have this ability to connect because you're controlling this entire top left side of the board. So also thinking about how you place your settlements, what's the proximity, which space belongs to you, is a very important inherent part of an effective road game. Just a little note there.
Spots for settlements and to take the longest road later in the game. The setup typically wins every road race it's in, which is a big advantage in Settlers of Catan. The biggest challenge for the road builder is building cities, because it typically doesn't produce either ore or wheat, or sometimes it doesn't produce either with its initial settlements. Possible solutions are to...
Yes. It's kind of funny that the challenges that the road builder has is the opposite of the OWS player. So for the road builder, they're usually lacking wheat, or they might only have like a 3 or 11, but that's why you need to be trading early. So using that valuable wood and brick to the OWS player and making effective trades so you can get ore, I think that's one of the most missed opportunities most players have, is they wait too long to collect ore or to build a city. And the problem is, once you get all your 5 settlements down, you're in a position where people don't want to trade you because you've become too dangerous too fast. So I am usually trying to get the ore in a city around points 3 and 4 so that I can city as fast as possible and then use that extra production effectively as the road player. So yeah, I think that is something worth noting if you're going for the road game. Go for the city a lot earlier than you think. I promise you it will pay dividends. Let me go back a little bit.
Wheat, or sometimes it doesn't produce either with its initial settlements. Possible solutions are to trade for these resources, or to build on strong third settlement spots that produce the missing ore or wheat. Of these 6 strategies, this is the most advanced to play, and I can't fully explain all the details that go into it in this short amount of time. That's why I made a special video on my Patreon page dedicated to the road builder strategy.
Check it out.
But for now, let's move on to strategy number 3. The strategy most beginners try.
Something interesting, remember in the first setup, Treek showed the structure, right? The 3 cities, largest army, 2 VPs for OWS. There is a structure for a road as well, which is you need 5 settles, 5 settles, road, a VP, and a city. Think of that however you wish. From experience of playing thousands of games, 5 settles, VP, city, longest road is the most efficient way to play road. So when I think about a road game, I'm trying to fit everything within that template. And then anything else is like a variation or a deviation from that. So just something to think about there. The ability to pull devs is still relevant. You need to ideally get that 1 VP to make your setup really flow. And then obviously you need the city as well. These are almost requirements if you want to play an efficient game and keep up with the board. So interesting note there. Let's keep going.
Try to play is the 5 resource setup. This strategy is very beginner friendly because you have to trade less in order to build your expansion spots and improve your settlements into cities. A major downside of this strategy is the way it does a little bit of everything. Players who play with this setup often fall short in taking either the largest army and the longest road, because other players truly focus on just one of them, which makes the 5 resource setup a little worse against strong opponents.
So interesting. And it's funny because I've spoken to Treek about this many times. He really doesn't like 5 resource setups, and for the reason he just stated here, which is that it kind of feels like it's middle of the road, right? Like it does a little bit of everything, but nothing specialized, nothing perfectly. And my thought to that is, well, you never play perfect opponents, so you don't need the perfect setup. there are many times that players will make mistakes fighting for the win condition of either going for army or going for road, where if you have a focus of trading effectively, working with the table, getting deals, you can open up so many different opportunities on these meta or social skills. And it's not purely just about the setup. This video was done about 3 years ago. And I think even in that short period of time, our understanding of the game and the skills that are involved to win consistently, like, I don't know if he feels quite the same way today about it, but it's more than just the setup, right? There's these other things you do have to learn to improve. But I understand the sentiment, right? The OWS player that's going all in or wheat cheap will probably get army. The person who has the most wooden brick will probably get road, but no one plays perfectly, and you don't need to either.
Upside of this strategy is the same as the downside, because it does a little bit of everything. The setup doesn't have to rely on trades with the bank or with your opponents to get things done. The best way to get to 10 points with this setup is by increasing your production, by building cities and settlements, and then to look at what is possible. Sometimes one of the players that focuses on either the army or the road struggles, which gives the 5 resource player the opportunity to take one of them or even both. Now it's time to look at the
Something worth noting too, just going back here, there is kind of a situation too with the 5 resource setup. You can still fight for army or road, one of the win conditions. A lot of time, it's going to depend on where you drop your city. So as an example, I kind of believe if you look at this setup here by blue, the city's absolutely going on the 5-8-10. But what does that mean? Well, it means that you're going to be increasing your wood and your brick production, which means you're more likely to start fighting for road. These are little things, right? Like, it doesn't mean, oh my God, because you have the most wood and brick, you have to take it. But that's usually what happens, right? Like, your increased production on a certain win condition will kind of guide you towards the direction you need to go. But I love 5 resource. I think if I can have the opportunity to get it, I will. The most important thing is I want high production, though. I don't want flexibility of resources, but not be able to produce enough cards. So it's always a balance. Yeah, always a balance. But if I can get a high production, flexible setup, that's kind of the dream. That's the goal. All right, let's keep going here.
or even both. Now it's time to look at the next one. The city plus road setup does exactly what it says it does. You build a ton of cities and you take the longest road. To get cities, you need ore and wheat, as well as wood and brick to build roads. It's key to not build on sheep, which is fine, because sheep is usually the least used resource in the game. Cities are worth 2 points each, and you can build a maximum of 4 cities in the game. So 8 points plus the 2 points from the longest road makes 10. This strategy is quite easy to play when the circumstances are ideal. They are ideal when there's no road builder player in the game. Because when there is a road builder, it's nearly impossible to take the longest road as the city plus road player. The best board to play the city plus road setup on is a high sheep board, because on those boards it's a lot easier to trade for sheep with your opponents. Here's another fun strategy. The port.
All right, so he moved on pretty quickly there. Essentially what this is you're focused on 2 main things: dropping cities and dropping roads, right? So what this setup usually has, let me see if I can find an example photo of it. You're going to have a ton of wood and brick and a ton of ore and wheat, and you actually don't need that much sheep, because if you think about it, you only need 2 sheep in this setup. From a theoretical standpoint, you need 2 sheep for 2 settles, so that's 4 points, and then you upgrade your 4 points in the cities, that's 8 points, and then you get road, which is 10 points. So in that way, when you think about it, you just need 2 extra settles, 4 cities, longest road. It's still a lot, but it can be a really effective strategy. And what I find is a lot of newer to intermediate players have a hard time assessing the threat of this setup, because it's clear a lot of times who's the full OWS player and also who's the road builder. But when that person's somewhere in the middle where they've got a little bit of the roads and the cities, it's not quite sure where they're going. So I find this setup has an incredible amount of sneaking power, if that makes sense, right? The ability to kind of build fast, explode, and then kind of go for road when it makes the most sense. Honestly, one of the most underrated setups. Highly recommend if you can get your hands on what we call a 4 cities longest road game, give it a shot. So really cool that he put this in here. All right, let's go to the next video.
Here's another fun strategy. The port strategy usually has a ton of the same resource and the possibility to build on a 2-for-1 port that matches the resource you produce a lot of. The example on this board highlights a wood port strategy, which is one of the strongest port strategies in Catan. The biggest strength of the port strategy is its flexibility, because it can 2-for-1 the main resource into the resource they need, so they don't often have turns where they can't do anything at all. The biggest downside of port strategies is that you don't know whether or not you can go for longest road or largest army early in the game. Your opponents will also not be very happy to help you build on the port.
So interesting. I'll give you a little tip from perspective here and just experience. I would say 80% of the port strategies are going to be development card army focused. And the reason for that is that usually when you're trying to take road with a 2-for-1 strategy, it's not efficient enough. Versus you can get a ton of, like, for example, this wood port here. Let's go back to the photo. Essentially, the way I look at that setup is that you're going to use all that additional wood, the 5, the 10, the 6, and turn that into ore. So if you kind of imagine these kind of being ore tiles and you have the 9 wheat and sheep, all of a sudden you have an ore, wheat, sheep setup. So you're using that wood to supplement the ore or whatever you might need, in your hand or whatever the case is. So I do find 2-for-1 ports go really well for devs. If you're going to play road, usually you're going to be using something like the wood port though, because if you think about it, if you have a wood port, you only need 3 wood to drop a road, right? The 2 wood for the brick and then 1 wood, boom, road. But if you have something like a wheat port, you would need 4 wheat to drop a road. 2 wheat for a wood, 2 wheat for a brick, and so on. So just thinking about the mathematics of it, usually your port strategy is going to go into devs, but obviously don't be too tunneled on this. You need to stay flexible. You need to read what opportunities are best. But I love port strategies. I mean, I won the USA Nationals tournament on a wheat port, coastal wheat port. So yes, I would have a hard time saying they're not, they are unplayable, but be careful. Because one thing is that when you're playing something like ranked, for whatever reason, people overvalue 2-for-1 ports. So I'm telling you now, play at your own risk. I love 2-for-1 ports, but they just seem to scare people in a way that that is not proportional to the actual effectiveness of the setup. And sometimes you will get overblocked and lose the game because of fear. Worth just taking note there.
Into the
all right, let's keep going.
In the game, the port, which makes your start often quite slow. Surprisingly, it's a strategy that works better against top tier players than against average players, because average players overvalue the strength of 2-for-1 ports and block the matching resource way too often. I saved the best strategy for last, because strategy number 6 is hybrid or wheat sheep. Viewers familiar with my channel know that I believe that hybrid or wheat sheep is the best strategy in Catan. It's similar to full or wheat sheep because it places on strong ore, wheat and sheep hexes in order to build cities and buy development cards. The difference is that hybrid or wheat sheep also has a little bit of wood or brick to make building a road and a settlement a little easier. This strategy works on every single board.
All right. So I've spoken to Treek. We've actually done quite a few different videos together about setups. He freaking loves hybrid or wheat sheep. And honestly, I don't think it's as good as people. I don't think it's the end all be all of Catan. I'll put it that way. Because the thing is, there might be boards that are flooded with wood and you can steal for the wood, right? It might be more productive to get development cards consistently versus the wood on the 10 here. But I get the sentiment. Usually when you have a really good OWS and then just a little bit of wood and brick, then it does give you a certain sense of flexibility where you could produce those resources and not have to rely on the generosity of trades. I personally think I would like to usually have just a little bit of both wood and brick versus just one. But that being said, it doesn't hurt. I still think at the end of the day, the biggest piece of this setup is, can you buy devs consistently? Do you have enough ore and wheat to support your game? But yes, hybrid OWS, really good. I think you get the picture, right? If you really want to improve your game, learn development cards, learn how to play ore, wheat, sheep. So let's keep going.
Building a road and a settlement a little easier. This strategy works on every single board, as long as there is enough ore and wheat to support it for you to pick. My rule of thumb is at least 4 pips of ore, 4 pips of wheat and 2 pips of sheep production and more is always welcome. If you want to learn more about hybrid or with sheep, I recommend watching this video next, because in this video I give tips and tricks on how to play hybrid or with sheep and full or with sheep effectively.
Awesome. Please consider subscribing, which I highly recommend you do. Treek has a wealth of videos. He's done an awesome job supporting this community. You're not going to see gameplays there, but it's going to be strategy videos like this. So what's the major takeaways here? Well, I think the coolest thing for newer players is that there are ways to improve your game. There are strategies that are consistently working in the meta, and it's on you to go out there and learn them. And luckily you have people such as myself and Treek who do have this content. I would say if you needed to take away one key thing from all of this, it is, first of all, go after win condition. You need to focus on either building a setup that dominates or gets road or army. And for a lot of you, because you probably start out with the wood and brick strats, I would say get or wheat sheep under your belt, figure out how to play development card game, get a flow and understanding how to use the robber so that you can make deals for cards and effectively play the game that way. But awesome stuff, man. I really want to encourage you to go to his channel, give him a sub, let him know that Danny sent you. And also, if you like this style of content where we're looking at these other videos, kind of adding our feedback to it, please let me know. Other than that, have an awesome, incredible day. Thank you so much for the support. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like and sub. All right, y'all. Dandy is out.